Hello and welcome along to lesson 169. I hope you're enjoying the lessons at the moment, and we're with the theme of grace again today. By grace I live, by grace I am released. So we'll take a moment to drop in and settle ourselves for this morning's lesson. So I invite you to soften your gaze, let your eyes become restful in their sockets. Allow your body to fall still. Perhaps this morning you might be able to become aware of the subtle beating of your heart. And staying with your awareness centered in your heart as we speak these words. We begin this day in gratitude. We open our hearts and we surrender to love. We ask love to lead the way through the minutes and the hours of this new day. We welcome joy, fun, and abundant prosperity. We recognize that all encounters are wholesome and that all experiences can be met with a peaceful heart that is anchored in the truth that we are one, that we are love, and that we are free. And we release these words and we let them be. Okay. By grace I live, by grace I am released. Grace is an aspect of the love of God, which is the most like the state prevailing in the unity of the truth. It is the world's most lofty aspiration, for it leads beyond the world entirely. It is past learning, yet the goal of learning. For grace cannot come until the mind prepares itself for true acceptance. Grace becomes inevitable instantly in those who have prepared a table where it can be gently laid and willingly received, an altar clean and holy for the gift. Yeah, so for me, I often think of it in that way, that you need to have a space for grace, to put it really simply. And I believe grace is always there. The space is almost about noticing the grace. So here it says, grace is acceptance of the love of God within a world of seeming hate and fear. By grace alone, the hate and fear are gone. So it is, we create the space for the grace, and the grace allows us to move through the world with using our Christ vision, using our tool of forgiveness, and recognizing that this, what we're seeing, is an illusion. But this all happens by grace. And I may have spoken about it on earlier lessons, but you know, when I think of grace, of course, I think of Amazing Grace, the beautiful song. And, you know, you may or may not know, but the song was written by a guy who was a slave, or about a guy who was a slave trader. I think he wrote it himself, actually. But he was a slave trader. And he speaks about, by this amazing grace of God, he got to see things differently. And he began to recognize the slaves as human beings, as, you know, mirrors of himself, as God's love. And he went on to become a bishop. And it was all through grace. So grace presents a state so opposite to everything the world contains that those whose minds are lightened by the gift of grace cannot believe the world of fear is real. Grace is not learned. The final step must go beyond all learning. Grace is not the goal this course aspires to attain. Yet we prepare for grace in that an open mind can hear the call to waken. It is not shut tight against God's voice. It has become aware that there are things it does not know, and thus is ready to accept a state completely different from the experience with which it is familiarly at home. We have perhaps appeared to contradict our statement about the revelation of the Creator and the child as one that has been already set. And we have also said the mind determines when that time will be and has determined it. And yet we urge you to bear witness to the word of love, to hasten the experience of truth, and speed its advent into every mind that recognizes truth's effects on you. Oneness is simply the idea God is, and in God's being, God encompasses all things. No mind holds anything but God's or love's. When we say God is, then we cease to speak, for in that knowledge, words are meaningless. So, if you're comfortable with the word God, God is all, or love is all. But again, you could just pause, love is, and that's it. There's nothing more to be said because it's all encompassing. It is all. There are no lips to speak with and no part of the mind sufficiently distinct to feel that it is now aware of something not itself. It has united with its source, and like its source itself, it merely is. We cannot speak nor write nor even think of this at all. It comes to every mind when total recognition that its will is love's has been completely given and received completely. It returns the mind into the endless present where the past and future cannot be conceived. It lies beyond salvation, past all thought of time, forgiveness, and the holy face of love's perfect child. The child of God has merely disappeared into its creator, and as its creator has in it. The world has never been at all. Eternity remains a constant state. So my teacher, which again I may have said before, says that we are like a sugar cube in the tea of God. So we have dissolved. And you do realize it's very difficult to put language on this. And if you watch any of the great masters or teachers, the Spirit is using them to put words, but it's still challenging. There are places where there are no words. They're beyond the words. So this is beyond experience. We try to hasten. Yet forgiveness taught and learned brings with it the experiences which bear witness that the time the mind itself determined to abandon all but this is now at hand. So it's the tool of forgiveness all the time that we use that moves us closer to the knowing. The tool of forgiving that we brought into the world, that we brought into anything that we're seeing is other than love. And so, as course students, that's what we're using all the time, this tool of forgiveness. All learning was already in the Holy Spirit's mind, accomplished and complete. Holy Spirit, or internal teacher, recognized all that time holds and gave it to all minds that each one might determine from the point where time was ended and when it is released to revelation and eternity. We have repeated several times before that you merely make a journey that is already done. So that's like we were talking earlier about us being, or yesterday about us being the sunshine. We already are that. This is a journey that is already done. There is nothing needed to complete us. We are complete in and of ourselves. What's that beautiful movie, the eternal sunshine of a spotless mind? And that's what we are. So the journey is to recognize. For oneness must be here. Whatever time the mind has set for revelation is entirely irrelevant to what must be a constant state, forever as it always was, forever to remain as it is now. Again, we are timeless, we are changeless. We merely take the part assigned long since and fully recognized as perfectly fulfilled by the Holy Spirit, by inner wisdom, by your eternal teacher, who wrote salvation's script in its creator's name and in the name of its creator's child. So the script is there, the recipe is there, everything is there. There is no need to further clarify what no one in the world can understand. When revelation of your oneness comes, it will be known and fully understood. So again, back to making space, taking time and space for this revelation of our oneness. which in part is what we're doing here, but, quiet time of listening is a really important part of your day, to create time and space for that grace, which is part of the revelation or part of the condition for the revelation. Now we have tasks to do. For those in time can speak of things beyond and listen to words which explain what is to come is past already. Yet what meaning can words convey to those who count the hours still and rise and work and go to sleep by them? Suffice it then that you have tasks to do to play your part. The ending must remain obscure to you until your part is done. So there is something for us to do. It does not matter, for your part is still what all the rest depends on. And as you take the role assigned to you, salvation comes a little nearer each uncertain heart that does not beat as yet in tune with you. Forgiveness is the central theme that runs throughout salvation. Again, salvation, salve, to make whole. Holding all its parts in meaningful relationships, the course it runs directed and its outcome sure. And now we ask for grace, the final gift salvation can bestow. Experience that grace provides will end in time, for grace foreshadows heaven, yet does not replace the thought of time, but for a little while. The interval suffices. It is here that miracles are laid to be returned by you from the holy instance you receive through grace in your experience, to all who see the light that lingers in your face. That's so beautiful. When we devote ourselves to unveiling or revealing or recognizing the love that we are, the light will linger in our faces and others will see this. And so even the light that is within our face will be a light of grace. What is the face of God's innocent child but one who went a moment into timelessness and brought a clear reflection of unity, the unity it felt, an instant back to bless the world? So when you drop into stillness, when you drop into that space of knowing the love that you are, you bring that clear reflection of unity, of oneness, an instant back to bless the world. How could you finally attain to it forever while a part of you remains outside, unknowing, unawakened, and in need of you as witness to the truth? Be grateful to return as you were glad to go an instant and accept the gifts that grace provided you. You carry them back yourself. So, Marianne Williamson speaks all the time. Well, her book is Return to Love. But about that, return for which we can be truly grateful. And revelation stands not far behind. Its coming is ensured. We ask for grace and for experience that comes from grace. We welcome the release it offers everyone. We do not ask for the unaskable. We do not look beyond what grace can give. For this we can give in the grace that has been given us. So we can keep it really simple. Our learning goal today does not exceed this prayer. Yet in the world, what could be more than what we ask this day? Of the Spirit who gives the grace we ask as it was given to it. By grace I live. By grace I am released. By grace I live, by grace I will release. So we're going to take this into meditation. We're going to be with it for a little bit. And perhaps actually we'll do a little havening with it. With this one, I feel it might be apt. So taking your hands onto your shoulders and gently stroking downwards. By grace I live, by grace I am released. By grace I live, by grace I am released. Now just soften your eyes. By grace I give, by grace I will release. By grace I give, by grace I will release. By grace I live, by grace I am released. By grace I give, by grace I will release. By grace I am released. By grace I am released. By grace I am released. I choose grace. I create space for grace. I am the face of grace. By grace I am released, and by grace I will release. And then taking a breath in, exhale out, and gently letting go of your practice, and just enjoy taking space for grace to enter into your life, and to recognize when grace has entered. You know, that's such a beautiful thing is too, when we notice that something has happened by grace or through grace. See you tomorrow.